A simple bottle, many ways to grow. Welcome back to Earthly Delights. Today, we are going to use something simple, cheap, and easy to find. A clear plastic bottle. In the garden, that bottle can become more than waste. It can become a small rooting chamber for cuttings, a protective sleeve for air layering, a humidity dome for young plants, or a clear window that lets us watch new roots develop before we move a plant into soil. This is why bottle propagation is so useful. It is not just one method. It is a flexible tool that can support several different ways of growing new fruit trees. For easy-to-root plants like fig, mulberry, grape, and pomegranate, a bottle can help keep cuttings moist while they begin forming roots. For lemon and other citrus trees, it can hold damp medium around a branch during air layering. For more challenging trees like apple and avocado, it can still be part of the learning process, especially when combined with better timing, careful branch selection, rooting support, or grafting. In this guide, we will go step by step through the most useful ways to use a bottle in fruit tree propagation. We will look at bottle air layering for branches that are still attached to the mother tree. We will build a simple bottle propagator for cuttings that have already been removed. We will talk about rooting media, moisture control, natural supports, and the common mistakes that cause cuttings to dry out, rot, or fail after transplanting. Most importantly, we will match the method to the plant. A fig cutting, a lemon branch, an apple stem, and an avocado shoot do not all need the same approach. Each tree has its own level of difficulty and its own best path toward becoming a new plant. Once we understand that, propagation becomes much easier to practice. We are no longer guessing. We are choosing the right method, preparing the right environment, and giving each plant the conditions it needs to grow. So take a clean plastic bottle, a sharp pair of pruners, and a little patience. Today, we are going to turn that simple bottle into a useful tool for growing more fruit trees from the plants we already love. Section 1. Why fruit tree propagation is so powerful. Before we cut a bottle or prepare a branch, we need to understand why fruit tree propagation is worth learning. When you grow a fruit tree from seed, you are starting a new plant with new genetics. That can be exciting, but it is also unpredictable. An apple seed from a sweet apple does not guarantee another sweet apple tree. An avocado seed from a good avocado may grow into a healthy tree, but the fruit can be different in flavor, size, texture, and quality. This is why gardeners often use vegetative propagation. Instead of starting from seed, we take a piece of a plant we already know, a cutting, a branch, a bud, or a scion. This allows us to preserve the qualities of the mother tree more reliably. If a fig tree produces heavily, if a pomegranate has deep red sweet seeds, or if a lemon tree grows well in your yard, propagation gives you a way to multiply that useful plant. It can also save time. Seed-grown fruit trees often need years before they flower and fruit. But a cutting, an air layer, or a grafted plant begins with mature plant material. That does not mean it will fruit immediately, but it can often shorten the waiting time compared with growing from seed. There are several ways to do this. Cuttings are useful for plants that root easily, such as fig, mulberry, grape, and pomegranate. Air layering works well when we want a branch to stay attached to the mother tree while roots are forming. Grafting is especially important for apple, avocado, citrus, and many orchard trees, because it helps preserve the variety while using a strong root system. This is where the plastic bottle becomes useful. The bottle is not a separate miracle method. It is a simple tool that supports different propagation techniques. It can hold moisture around cuttings, keep rooting medium around an air-layered branch, or protect a newly potted plant while its roots adjust. So the real key is not using one method for every tree. The real key is choosing the right method for the right plant. Once we understand that, propagation becomes much more practical, and every bottle, cutting, and branch becomes part of a better plan. Section 2. The bottle as a mini propagation tool. A clear plastic bottle is useful in propagation because it helps control the small environment around a cutting or branch. When a plant is trying to form new roots, the most important conditions are moisture, air, warmth, cleanliness, and steady contact with the rooting medium. If the cutting dries out, it may die before roots begin. If the medium stays too wet, the stem may rot. If the air is too dry, the leaves lose water faster than the cutting can replace it. A bottle helps balance these conditions. First, it holds humidity. When we place cuttings inside a bottle propagator, the enclosed space slows water loss from the leaves and stems. This gives the cutting more time to form roots. Second, it protects the rooting area. In air layering, the bottle can hold moist medium around a wounded section of branch. Instead of wrapping loose plastic around the stem, the bottle creates a firmer sleeve that keeps the medium in place. Third, it lets us observe progress. Because the plastic is clear, we can often see moisture levels, root growth, or early signs of trouble without disturbing the plant. This is especially helpful for beginners, because pulling a cutting out too early can damage tiny new roots. Fourth, it can be reused after rooting. Once a cutting or air layer is planted in a pot, the same bottle can be cut and placed over the plant as a temporary humidity dome. This helps the young plant adjust while its new roots become stronger. The key is to use the bottle correctly. The medium inside should be moist, but never soggy. The bottle should create humidity, but it should not become a sealed oven. If the bottle sits in direct sun, heat can build quickly and damage the stem or roots. Bright indirect light is usually safer. A few small ventilation holes can help prevent stale air and excess condensation. Clean tools and clean bottles also matter, because warm moisture can encourage mold if the setup is dirty. So think of the bottle as a helper, not the whole method. It supports cuttings, air layering, and transplant recovery by creating a more stable place for new roots to begin. Section 3, Method 1. Bottle air layering for attached branches. Bottle air layering is a useful way to turn a branch into a new plant while it is still attached to the mother tree. In this method, we encourage roots to form on a living branch before cutting it away. Because the branch remains connected, it still receives water and energy while the new roots develop. This makes air layering helpful for many fruit trees, especially those that do not root easily as detached cuttings. Start with a healthy branch. Choose one with clean bark, active leaves, and no signs of disease or insect damage. A branch about pencil thick is usually easier to work with than one that is too soft, too thin, or too old and woody. Next, remove a narrow ring of bark from the branch. This is called girdling. It slows the downward movement of sugars, allowing them to collect above the wound where new roots can form. After removing the bark, lightly scrape the exposed surface so the branch does not simply heal over the wound. Now prepare the rooting medium. Sphagnum moss, cocoa coir, or a light mix of coir and perlite can work well. The medium should be damp like a wrung-out sponge, not dripping wet. Cut a clean plastic bottle lengthwise so it can open like a sleeve. Place it around the wounded section, fill it with the damp medium, and secure it with tape, wire, or zip ties. The medium should touch the wound closely, but it should not be packed so tightly that it blocks air. Keep the bottle in bright shade, or protect it from harsh direct sun. Clear plastic can heat up quickly, and too much heat can damage tender new roots. Check the moisture regularly. If the medium dries out, add a little water. If you notice a sour smell, black tissue, or standing water, the setup is too wet and needs more airflow or better drainage. This method can be useful for lemon, guava, fig, pomegranate, mulberry, and many tropical fruit trees. Apple and avocado may need more patience and stronger technique, so they are better treated as advanced attempts. Once the bottle shows a strong cluster of healthy roots, cut the branch below the rooted area and plant it carefully into a pot. Section 4. Method 2. Bottle cutting propagator for detached cuttings. The second way to use a bottle is as a small propagator for cuttings that have already been removed from the mother plant. This method is useful for fruit trees and vines that can root from cut stems, such as fig, mulberry, grape, and pomegranate. It can also be used for practice with easier plants because it teaches you how humidity, moisture, and airflow affect rooting. Start by choosing healthy cuttings. Avoid weak, diseased, or very soft growth. For many woody plants, a cutting about pencil thick works well. Each cutting should have several nodes because nodes are the points where leaves, buds, and often new roots can develop. Make the lower cut just below a node. Remove leaves from the lower part of the cutting so no leaves are buried in the medium. If the cutting has large leaves at the top, reduce them slightly to lower water loss. But do not strip the cutting completely if it still needs leaves to produce energy. Now prepare the bottle. A large clear water bottle works well. Cut it around the upper third so the top can open like a lid. Add a clean, airy rooting medium to the bottom. Perlite, coarse sand, cocoa coir, or a light mix of these materials can all work. The medium should be evenly moist, not soaked. Insert the cuttings deep enough that at least 1 or 2 nodes are inside the medium. Firm the medium gently around each stem so there are no large air gaps. Then close the bottle lid section and secure it lightly with tape if needed. Place the bottle in bright indirect light. Avoid direct sun, because the closed bottle can heat up quickly. A warm, stable place is better than a hot one. During the next few weeks, watch the moisture inside. Light condensation is normal, but heavy dripping and stale air can encourage mold. If the bottle looks too wet, open it briefly for airflow. If the medium dries, add a small amount of water. Do not pull the cuttings up to check for roots. New roots are fragile, and early leaves can sometimes grow from stored energy before roots are ready. Wait until you see steady new growth or roots along the side of the bottle before transplanting. Used well, this simple bottle propagator gives easy-to-root cuttings a protected place to begin life. Section 5. Method 3. Water bottle rooting for easy cuttings. Another simple way to use a bottle is for water rooting. This method is not the best choice for every fruit tree, but it is useful for learning how roots form and for working with plants that root easily. For this method, use a clean, clear bottle or jar. Fill it with enough water to cover only the lower part of the cutting. Do not submerge too much of the stem, because tissue that stays underwater for too long can soften and rot. Choose fresh, healthy cuttings with several nodes. Make the lower cut just below a node, then remove any leaves that would sit below the waterline. Leaves left in the water break down quickly and can make the water dirty. Place the bottle in bright, indirect light. Avoid strong sun, because warm, stagnant water can lose oxygen and encourage rot. Change the water every few days, or sooner if it becomes cloudy. Clean water gives the cutting a better chance to stay healthy while roots begin to form. Water rooting is especially useful for easy plants like mint, basil, pothos, and many soft-stemmed cuttings. These are good practice plants because you can see roots developing clearly. For fruiting plants, some gardeners experiment with fig, mulberry, or grape in water, but many woody fruit cuttings perform better in a moist, airy medium like perlite, sand, or cocoa coir. The important thing is to know what water rooting is best for. It is excellent for observation and for easy cuttings. It is less reliable for difficult woody fruit trees, especially apple and avocado, which usually need other methods, such as grafting, air layering, or controlled rooting conditions. When roots appear, do not wait until they become very long and tangled. Water roots are often delicate, and they must adjust when moved into soil. Once the roots are a few centimeters long, plant the cutting into a light, moist potting mix. Keep it in bright shade and maintain steady moisture while the roots adapt. A bottle of water is one of the easiest propagation tools to set up. Used with the right plants, it helps beginners understand rooting before moving on to more advanced fruit tree methods. Section 6. Method 4. Using a bottle as a humidity dome. After potting after a cutting or air layer has grown roots, the work is not finished. The young plant still needs help adjusting to life in a pot. New roots are tender. They can absorb water, but not as strongly as an older root system. At the same time, the leaves may still lose moisture quickly through wind, dry air, or bright sun. This is why many newly rooted plants wilt soon after transplanting, even when they looked healthy inside the bottle. A simple plastic bottle can help during this transition. Cut off the bottom of a clear bottle and place the upper part over the newly potted plant like a small dome. This traps some humidity around the leaves and slows water loss while the roots settle into the new medium. This method is especially useful for fig cuttings, pomegranate cuttings, citrus air layers, and other young plants that have just been moved from a protected rooting chamber into a pot. Place the pot in bright, indirect light, not full sun. A bottle dome can heat up very quickly in direct sunlight, and too much heat can damage tender leaves or roots. The goal is gentle humidity, not trapped heat. Airflow is also important. Leave the cap off, or open the dome for a short time each day. If you see too much condensation, mold, or soft leaves, the plant needs more ventilation. After several days, begin hardening the plant off. Lift the bottle slightly for a few hours, then remove it for longer periods each day. This helps the plant adjust slowly to normal air, instead of being shocked all at once. Do not keep the dome on forever. Once the plant stands firm, holds its leaves, and begins showing steady growth, remove the bottle completely. Used this way, a plastic bottle becomes more than a rooting tool. It becomes a gentle bridge between the protected world of propagation and the real growing conditions of the garden. Section 7. Natural rooting supports and rooting media. A good bottle setup depends on what we put inside it. The bottle holds the environment, but the rooting medium controls moisture, airflow, and contact with the stem. For most cuttings and air layers, the medium should be moist but not wet. Think of a sponge that has been soaked and then squeezed out. It should hold water, but it should not drip. Too much water pushes air out of the medium and can lead to rot. Too little moisture causes the cutting or wounded branch to dry before roots form. Coco coir is useful because it holds moisture well and stays fairly light. Perlite adds airspace and helps prevent the mix from becoming heavy. Coarse sand drains well and gives firm contact around the stem. Sphagnum moss is often used for air layering because it wraps easily around a branch and holds moisture for a long time. A simple mix can be coco coir with perlite, or sphagnum moss with a little perlite for better airflow. For detached cuttings, perlite, coarse sand, or a light coir mix often works better than heavy garden soil. Rooting support can also help, but it should be used carefully. Commercial rooting hormone is the most direct option, especially for harder cuttings. It usually contains rooting compounds such as IBA or NAA, which help encourage root formation in suitable plant material. Aloe vera gel is a gentle natural support. It can help keep the cut surface moist and may provide mild biostimulation, especially for easier cuttings. Use a thin coating, not a thick layer. Cinnamon is sometimes used as a dry surface protectant because it has antifungal properties. If you use it, apply only a light dusting. Do not pack it thickly around the wound. Honey and fermented biostimulants are also used by some gardeners, but they should be applied lightly and carefully. Too much sweet or wet organic material inside a warm bottle can encourage mold, insects, or sour smells. The safest rule is simple. Keep everything clean, light, and breathable. A bottle can hold moisture very well, so we do not need to overload it with heavy soil, thick pastes, or too many additives. Healthy roots need moisture, but they also need oxygen. When the medium stays airy and the stem stays clean, the plant has a much better chance to begin rooting. Section 8. Fruit Tree Guide. Which method fits which tree? The best method depends on the tree. A bottle can support many propagation techniques, but each fruit plant responds in its own way. Fig is one of the best choices for beginners. It roots well from cuttings when the medium is moist, airy, and warm. A bottle cutting propagator works especially well because it keeps humidity steady while roots form. Fig can also be air layered if you want a stronger branch before separating it from the mother tree. Mulberry is another easy candidate. Healthy cuttings often root well in perlite, coarse sand, or coco coir. Keep the bottle in bright indirect light and avoid making the medium too wet. Pomegranate can be started from cuttings or air layering. It likes steady moisture, but it does not like a sour, waterlogged setup. A few small ventilation holes in the bottle can help prevent mold and stem rot. Grape is also suitable for cuttings, especially dormant hardwood cuttings. The bottle helps keep moisture stable during the early stage, but the base of the cutting still needs oxygen, so drainage is important. Lemon and other citrus trees are good candidates for air layering. A bottle sleeve can hold damp moss or coir around the wounded branch until roots form. Some citrus cuttings may also root, but many citrus trees are grown by grafting because rootstock can improve strength, disease tolerance, and performance in different soils. Guava often responds well to air layering in warm climates. A bottle sleeve around a healthy branch can keep the rooting zone protected and evenly moist. Apple is more advanced. Some apple rootstocks can root from cuttings under controlled conditions, but ordinary apple branches are often difficult. For reliable fruit quality, grafting is usually the better method. Avocado is also challenging from mature branches. Seeds are easy to sprout, but they do not guarantee the same fruit. For dependable fruiting trees, grafting is usually the practical path. Bottle propagation can still be used for experiments, but it needs patience and good conditions. Start with the easy trees first: fig, mulberry, grape, and pomegranate. Then try citrus or guava air layering. Save apple and avocado for grafting practice or advanced propagation projects. Section 9. Advanced methods that complete the toolkit. Bottle propagation is useful, but it is only one part of a larger fruit tree propagation toolkit. Some trees root easily from cuttings. Others need a different method to give reliable results. The first advanced method to know is grafting. Grafting joins a desirable fruiting variety, called the scion, onto a separate root system, called the rootstock. This is one of the most important methods for apple, avocado, citrus, pear, peach, and many orchard trees. The scion gives us the fruit variety we want. The rootstock can add strength, disease tolerance, soil adaptability, or size control. This is especially helpful when a tree is hard to root from cuttings. Instead of forcing a difficult branch to grow its own roots, we attach that branch to a root system that is already strong. The second method is using seedlings as rootstock. For example, an avocado seed can grow into a young rootstock, and later a known avocado variety can be grafted onto it. Apple seedlings or clonal apple rootstocks can also be used for grafting. This combines the simplicity of seed growing with the reliability of vegetative propagation. Another useful technique is root cuttings. This does not work for every fruit tree, but in some plants and rootstocks, pieces of healthy root can produce new shoots. It is more specialized than stem cuttings, but worth knowing because roots often behave differently from older woody branches. Nurse root grafting is another advanced method. Here, a difficult cutting is temporarily supported by a small root piece. The nurse root keeps the scion alive while it develops its own roots over time. This is not a beginner technique, but it shows how growers solve rooting problems by combining methods. Etiolation is also used in professional propagation. This means shading or covering part of a young shoot so the tissue becomes softer and more responsive before rooting. It can help with difficult plants, including some clonal avocado work, but it requires timing and careful control. The lesson is simple. When a bottle method is not enough, we choose another tool. Good propagation is not one trick. It is a set of methods, and the best growers learn which one fits the tree in front of them. Section 10. Common mistakes and how to avoid them. Most propagation failures come from small mistakes in moisture, timing, cleanliness, or plant selection. Once you understand these mistakes, your results improve quickly. The first mistake is using the wrong type of branch. Very soft green growth often rots before it roots. Very old woody branches may stay alive for a while but respond slowly. For many fruit plants, a healthy semi-hardwood or pencil-thick cutting is easier to manage. The second mistake is keeping the medium too wet. A bottle holds humidity well, so we do not need soggy soil inside it. If the medium smells sour, turns slimy, or causes the stem to blacken, there is too much water and not enough air. The third mistake is letting the cutting dry out. This often happens when the bottle is left open too long, placed in a windy spot, or filled with a medium that cannot hold moisture. The goal is steady moisture, not wetness and not dryness. The fourth mistake is direct sun. Clear plastic heats up fast. A bottle placed in harsh sun can cook young roots, dry the medium, or cause leaves to collapse. Bright indirect light is safer for most setups. The fifth mistake is poor hygiene. Dirty bottles, old soil, and unclean blades can introduce fungi or bacteria. Always clean the bottle, use fresh medium, and make cuts with sharp, sterilized tools. The sixth mistake is checking too often. Many cuttings are damaged because gardeners pull them up to look for roots. If the cutting is still green and firm, give it time. Watch for roots through the bottle, or wait for steady new growth. The seventh mistake is transplanting too early. A few tiny roots are not enough to support a full plant. Wait until the root system is strong enough to hold the medium together before moving it. The final mistake is rushing the plant into full outdoor conditions. Newly rooted plants need a gentle transition. Keep them in bright shade first, maintain steady moisture, and slowly expose them to more air and light. Propagation becomes easier when we stop rushing. Choose healthy material, keep the setup clean, balance moisture with airflow, and give the plant enough time to build real roots. Section 11. The transition. From bottle to real soil rooting is only half the journey. The next challenge is helping the young plant survive after it leaves the bottle. Inside the bottle, the cutting or air layer has been protected from wind, dry air, and sudden temperature changes. The roots have grown in a small, moist space. Once the plant is moved into a pot, everything changes. The air is drier, the light is stronger, and the new roots must begin working in real soil or potting mix. This is why the transition must be gentle. Before removing an air layer from the mother tree, make sure the bottle contains more than just a few tiny roots. Wait until you see a healthy cluster of white or light-colored roots. A stronger root ball gives the new plant a better chance after separation. Use clean, sharp pruners to cut below the rooted section. Handle the root ball carefully. Do not shake off the medium or pull at the roots. Young roots break easily, and even small damage can slow the plant down. Choose a pot that is not too large. A small or medium pot is easier to manage because the moisture stays more even. Fill it with a light, well-draining mix. Heavy garden soil can stay wet too long in a container and may suffocate new roots. Plant the new tree at the same depth as the rooted area. Firm the mix gently around the roots, then water thoroughly. After watering, the medium should be moist, not muddy. For the first 2 or 3 weeks, keep the plant in bright shade. Avoid direct afternoon sun and strong wind. If the leaves wilt easily, place a cut plastic bottle over the plant as a temporary humidity dome, but leave some airflow so mold does not build up. Gradually harden the plant off. Each day, give it a little more fresh air and slightly brighter light. When it holds its leaves well and begins making steady new growth, it can slowly move into normal growing conditions. A successful transplant is not rushed. Protect the roots, reduce stress, and let the young tree adjust step by step. Section 12. Building your own propagation plan. Now that we have several methods, the next step is choosing where to begin. If you are new to fruit tree propagation, start with plants that give fast feedback. Fig, mulberry, grape, and pomegranate are good first choices because they often root more easily from cuttings. Use a bottle cutting propagator with a clean, airy medium. Keep it in bright indirect light and observe how the stems respond. Once you are comfortable with cuttings, try bottle air layering. Lemon, guava, fig, pomegranate, and many tropical fruit trees can be good candidates. Air layering teaches you how to choose a branch, prepare a wound, hold moisture around it, and wait until roots are strong enough before separating the new plant. For citrus, apple, and avocado, add grafting to your plan. These trees can be more complicated because the root system matters. A good rootstock can improve strength, soil adaptation, disease tolerance, and long-term performance. You can still experiment with bottles, but grafting gives you another reliable path. A simple plan is to work in 3 levels. Level 1, practice easy cuttings. Use fig, mulberry, grape, or pomegranate. Level 2, practice air layering. Use lemon, guava, fig, or another healthy fruit tree with flexible branches. Level 3, learn grafting. Use seedlings or suitable rootstocks for apple, avocado, citrus, and other orchard trees where cuttings are less dependable. Keep notes as you work. Write down the plant name, cutting date, medium, location, watering pattern, and how long roots took to appear. This turns every attempt into useful experience, even when a cutting fails. Do not judge success by one branch. Propagation is a numbers game. Prepare several cuttings or layers, compare results, and adjust the method each time. The goal is not to force every fruit tree into the same technique. The goal is to build a practical system. When you know which plants root easily, which ones prefer air layering, and which ones need grafting, you can grow with more confidence and fewer wasted attempts. One bottle, many lessons. A simple plastic bottle may look ordinary, but in the garden, it can become many useful things. It can become a small chamber for cuttings, helping them stay moist while roots begin to form. It can become a sleeve for air layering, holding damp medium around a living branch until that branch is ready to stand on its own. It can become a humidity dome after transplanting, protecting a young plant while its roots adjust to real soil. But the bottle is only the tool. The real skill is knowing how to use it. For fig, mulberry, grape, and pomegranate, bottle cuttings can be a good place to start. These plants often respond well when the medium is clean, airy, and evenly moist. For lemon, guava, and other suitable fruit trees, bottle air layering can help a healthy branch develop roots before it is separated from the mother tree. For apple, avocado, citrus, and many orchard trees, grafting may become an important part of the plan, especially when we want stronger roots and more reliable fruit quality. This is what makes propagation so interesting. There is no single method for every plant. Each tree teaches us something different. Some teach us confidence because they root quickly. Some teach us patience because they take more time. Some teach us to add another skill, like grafting, when cuttings are not enough. So as you try this in your own garden, begin with the easier plants. Prepare several cuttings. Keep your bottle clean. Use a light rooting medium. Watch the moisture. Protect the plant from harsh sun. And most of all, give the roots time to grow before you disturb them. Every attempt gives you information. A successful cutting gives you a new plant. A failed cutting teaches you what to adjust next time. That is how gardeners improve. One branch, one bottle, one season, and one lesson at a time. So before you throw away that clear plastic bottle, look at it again. In the right hands, it can become a rooting chamber, a protective cover, a small greenhouse, and the beginning of a new fruit tree. Thank you for joining me on Earthly Delights. If you found this guide helpful, give the video a like, subscribe for more practical gardening lessons, and leave a comment telling me which fruit tree you want to propagate first.